We're back.
It's your mom, friends. I'm Chrissy.
And I'm Jess. And in this episode, we're talking about the shift from hands on parenting to becoming a steady, supportive presence. What it really looks like to let go of control without losing connection, to respect their autonomy while still offering wisdom, and to navigate the mix of pride, fear, grief, and everything in between. We're diving into identity shifts, boundaries, knowing when to speak up or stay quiet, and building an adult to adult relationship rooted in respect. This stage isn't about parenting harder, it's about parenting differently. If you've ever wondered, did I do enough or why does this feel harder now? You're not alone. Let's talk about loving them well without holding on too tight. Awesome. Well, let's dive in because this is going to be, I have some perspective on the other side, being parented as an adult child, but you have adult children. What kind of transition have you gone into? You've talked about parenting them differently than Emily. What was that kind of transition of letting them fly, right? Like, isn't that the goal? Although I fear it like immensely.
It's like we raise them so they can fly, but then we fear when they do fly. It's
Uh-huh.
both sides of it. Yeah. So we have three adult children. My stepson is the oldest, and then my son is they're the same age, just a few months apart. And then my middle child is 22. And it was very different for all three of them. The boys graduated both the same year. As I said, they're the same age, and life looked differently for them after high school, of course. My son ended up becoming a young dad shortly after high school, so his kind of path looks very different than the other two for sure. And even through that, he was still living at home right after high school, my oldest son, and he was in a relationship that I knew was likely going to turn out the way that it did. And, it's funny because in that intro, you talk about like when to speak up, when to stay quiet, those types of things. And I have a really hard time staying quiet if I'm being a really hard time being quiet. I was a young mom. I went through a lot of stuff myself, so I saw that happening for him. And so I tried, giving him some direction and guidance. And of course, teenage boys, not just my son, most teenage boys think they know everything, think they know it all, and they don't want to listen to their parent. And so if I could do things differently, I would. And it was because of my pushing and trying to protect him that he chose to move out of the house. And then he ended up down a different path, and he has a beautiful boy. He's 5 now. He's a great dad. He's working. He's finishing his bachelor's degree. He's doing well. He just took the longer way around. And I still find myself trying to protect him, and give him guidance. And then the other two, my stepson is doing very well. He has been kind of figuring things out, wanting to know. He tried maybe college for a little bit, and then he decided that he just wanted to work full time. So he's working full time. He got married recently. He's doing very well. His wife is wonderful. So just seeing them move into that stage of their life has been quite special. And it's been cool to kind of have a front row seat to all of that. And my middle child, she's 22, still lives local. She's a police officer. She got her bachelor's in teaching, and then she decided that she wanted to work in criminal justice, which is interesting connection, right? You go to be an elementary
Sure.
teacher and you decide to be a police officer. It's just she's serving in a nearby city, and her fiance is doing very well, and so they are well established. And it's interesting because she'll tell her brother, just listen to mom, she knows what she's saying. Like, life is easier when you listen to mom, because again, I have a hard time being quiet, and I always kind of speak up and give guidance because I've been through a lot, and I've had a lot of my own hardships, and I hope that my kids don't experience the same hardships I have, so I try to give them, guidance and whatever. And my daughter will take it. She listens, and she tells her brother, you might cringe when you're listening to mom. And she knows what she's talking about. Life is easier when you listen to mom. So shout out to Maddie. Thank you, Maddie.
I'm writing that down. Life is easy because I'm gonna tell this to my children. We're gonna make it an affirmation that we're gonna say in the morning. Deegan and Bradley, say it with me. Life is easier when you listen to mom.
She learned but she went to college, so she was out of the three of them, she went away to college, and it was really, really hard for me, really, really hard for me. I texted her multiple times a day. I wanted to make sure she was safe, and she was safe in her dorm at night and all the things. So when she became a police officer, it was a bag of nerves all the time. um it's hard to let go. It's hard to fully let go. And so now I have, our last one, Emily, she's 14. And I am parenting her very differently than, I parented my older kids, just because I'm in a different phase of my life, of course. And just things aren't as hard as they have always been traditionally raising my two older ones. But it's been challenging, and I think it's more challenging for me than it is for them, because I know how much I struggled when I was a young adult. And let's be honest, the cost of living right now is astronomical.
It's so true.
And how are kids surviving, right? Without help from mom or dad, or living in the basement or whatever. Like, it's so expensive right now. So
It's
it's hard to see them struggle financially, um, too.
Yeah, and it's like they have to make different decisions than maybe we had to make when we were their age because of the cost and things like that. Even having kids, like that is a difficult, like that more thought needs to go into having kids and multiple kids because of the cost, because two families typically have to work now, and who's going to watch and what's the cost of daycare. And it's not like my dad was one of five. Like that was just kind of like a norm. You have a lot of kids because his mom stayed home and raised the family and his dad worked, and and then they have families that kind of looked similar like that, but that's not really the norm anymore. Like both parents typically have to work. And so having four and five kids isn't cost effective as terrible as that sounds anymore, because it is very expensive. It's very expensive right? And like, so the thought process that has to go into what your family looks like is definitely different than years and years ago. Even
Mm-hmm.
10 years ago is very different.
And the cost of college is just astronomical
Yes,
as
it's
well. And
correct.
when you think about young adults, Travis has his own child, so he was considered independent. However, you're not considered independent until your mid-20s, unless you're married or you have a child. So you could be moved out of your parents' home and still have to include their income on the FAFSA when you go to college. And so that's less student loans or federal student aid that you
Right.
receive, because you have to include your parents unless you're considered an independent. And again, I mean, there are different ways to being independent. If you're married, if you have a child, if you were in foster care beyond the age of 13, there are different things that can get you independent. And a lot of kids don't fit that. And so they can't even afford college, right? And I know there's a shift right now, community college, and college is so expensive, and you can do a lot without a college degree. And you could do a lot with a college degree. And you can provide a solid future if you do have a college degree. You're talking to someone who has been in college my entire adult life. And it's scary though for kids these days, because like the cost is just beyond anybody's ability to afford. And then they're going to be up to their eyeballs in debt after they graduate 4 years of college. And what's the return on investment with that, especially fresh out of school? And then you have to find a place to live. It's just so hard right now. And so being a parent of adult children in this time right now is really difficult, because I cannot pay for all of my kids' college. Like
Right.
that's not realistic. So it's difficult. My heart goes out to a lot of those older kiddos who or adult children who are trying to go to college, or just to even work and
Right.
afford
To
life and try
function.
to be independent. And their prefrontal cortex, this part of the brain that's responsible for decision making, rational thinking, all the things, is not fully developed until their mid-20s. So they're making these big life decisions between the ages of 18 and 25, 26 years old, and their brain's not even fully developed. And there's research out
Right.
there that says it doesn't get fully developed until your 30s, early 30s now. So to think about that,
Maybe mine was mid 30s.
So like you think of that too, and it's just there's so much stacked against them right now. And as a parent having to sit on the sidelines and let it play out because I'm no longer in control, it's really hard. It's hard. And it's been something that was huge for me initially to get used to. And even to this day, like, I still struggle with it.
Is there anything that you did? So I'm jotting all kinds of questions down because I am picking apart different things that you've said that I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. So is there there obviously, do you feel like you went through like a grieving process? Like I feel like I'm grieving my kids as adults and they're still little because in a society that kind of rushes everybody to grow up fast, and I'm constantly looking for like looking in the future, like, oh my gosh, in 2 years Deegan's going to be driving and then we're going to have to cross this bridge. And it's like I'm constantly grieving these, like even yesterday and last year, and because they grow so fast. And if you look at a picture from today versus even just a year ago, the change is insane. Like their faces look younger, their baby, right? Like they're losing the babiness. And so it's like I feel like I'm constantly living in a state of grief of these kids are growing up so fast. And then I think of the future of like, oh my gosh, Deegan next year only has 4 years of high school left and then he's out of school. And it's like we know how fast time goes. 4 years is going to go by in the blink of an eye. And that means I'm going to have like a 17-year-old. This is insane. Like I'm not old enough to have these kids. And so, do you find that you like grieved, or was there like certain emotions that you felt? I mean, you've spoke very openly about, living a completely in a different season when you
Mhm.
were raising these two. So, do you feel like you coming out of those seasons, like did you grieve that experience? Did you grieve that the fact that now they're adult children? Like what kind of emotions have you had or had to work through to be the parent you are to them because you're still parenting them? It just looks different.
Hmm. Yeah. No, good question, Jess. I would say yes. I went through all those emotions. And even just today, I had a memory on Facebook. Gotta love Facebook. 16 years ago, I had a picture of a sleepover. So when I couldn't afford life and I was raising two children, we would have sleepovers with cousins and friends every other weekend. And I had a house full all the time, every other weekend. And so 16 years ago, I had a picture that I posted on Facebook of one of our slumber parties. And so it's so hard to believe. Like Emily, that was pre-Emily. She wasn't even
Right.
here. And so it just looking at that makes me sad. And then like we'll often kind of, talk about different memories with each other about the different trips we've taken or how we used to be the house where all the friends would come and hang out. And we have a wall that has all the kids' heights throughout the years and all their friends too. So
Oh
like,
my
yeah, and so the
gosh.
problem with that though, it's like right on the paint. We wrote on the wall. So like if we ever sold the house, we can't take it with us. But yeah, I think there are definitely feelings in sadness and like, did I do enough? Did I raise them right? Did I instill the right values? Those types of things. But seeing the adults that they are now today and how hardworking they all are and how kind and generous they all are and responsible. They all have their own homes. They're all working. They're all doing all the things that we could only ever dream of. I'd say we did pretty well. And I say we, I've been with my husband almost 11 years now, and we have been in this. We've only been married 5, but we've been together almost 11 years. We've been this in this together. And I think we've done a heck of a job raising these kids and co-parenting them as well, because they do have their other parents. But yeah, I've experienced all of it, and I still do.
Isn't it amazing that we like to scrutinize our stories, we like to scrutinize our past, but when thinking about them as adult children, like they saw you hustle, they saw you work your tail off, like you instilled in them a work ethic that clearly has shown through now. And so it is super easy to, criticize our paths and our journeys, but knowing that each of our journeys has an impact, and it may not always be beautiful, but something beautiful can come from it. And just because the certain circumstances aren't always beautiful, but what you can do with them really is. And knowing that, not every situation, life is not always rainbows and sunshine. Like it's not all good, but good can come from the situation. And I think this is really why it's important to learn about ourselves and our emotions and controlling our actions because just like we're teaching them that life is hard. Like life is hard. I say this to my kids all the time. Life is hard. We have to be able to prepare ourselves for that and know that you are going to come across adversity. You are going to go through trying times. It's going to suck sometimes, but that doesn't have to eat you alive. Like I let it eat me alive. Like we don't have to let that happen. You can make the best of the situation and still be a good parent, still teach them core values, still teach them the things that you were doing amidst the hard. And
Mhm.
so, because of that, they are now adults who are capable of going through life knowing that it may not always be easy because we weren't raised in easy. But there's something to be said for kids who go through trials. Like there's something to be said. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Like there's so much I wish I could do differently if I would go back. But then, I was talking to a mom just this week who is giving up alcohol. She wants to eliminate it. And she's carrying some heavy mom guilt about it being in her life up until now. And I was like, you know what? For a long time, it ate me alive. Like, I wish Deegan and Briley didn't even know me as somebody who drank. But there's got to be value and power in having them walk through a healing journey with you. Like
Mhm.
seeing it, feeling it, knowing, celebrating, knowing the mom before and the mom after. That's got to be something that they're going to use in their story later. It's either they're not going to drink or they're going to use it to help somebody. Like, I truly believe that having our kids walk alongside of us, there's power in it. There's a reason for it. It's not all bad. It doesn't have to be all bad.
Mhm.
I'd love to dive into a couple things that I wrote down. When you talk about Travis having his son young, did that cause any, like, what was the interaction between you and him? Obviously, like, there was probably different emotions and feelings, and by all means, you don't share what you're willing to, whatever. But I know that moms want what's best for our kid, wants what we want what's best for our kids, and that doesn't always happen. And how we react matters. Is it going to damage our connection with them? And so, walking through that with him, do you feel like you handled it appropriately? Did you struggle with it in the beginning? Is it something you grew to? Obviously you love your grandson, he is a doll, but like as a mom who's watching her son walk down a path similar to your, like being a young parent, what were your emotions behind that?
I was scared and I was like, gonna be a 38-year-old grandmother. That's what happens when you're 19 and you
Oh
have your
my
first
God.
kid, and then your first kid has a kid at 19. And so I went through all the emotions of like excitement and anger and sadness and like super like thrilled and all the things. So, um, and I had a really hard time with coming up with a name. I was like, maybe he could just call me Miss Chrissy. Maybe,
Miss Christie.
which, by the way, is what I'm called at school. Social worker for the school I worked for. So I'm Miss Chrissy. But I settled on Gigi. And a funny story because my maiden name is Grant. My married name is Grant. Learned something new about me
I
today.
did not know.
We are not related, just so we're clear on that. No, but so when we got married, we had a hashtag called Grant 2.0. So GG Grant, it fit. So anyway,
That is
that
so
was kind
funny.
of an inside joke. So I settled on Gigi and we absolutely love him. It did take a little while for me to get like on board with the idea. And I worried because I knew how hard I struggled as a young mom. I knew like I wanted more for my kiddo. I knew that I wanted to go to school. I knew that I needed to work. I knew, thankfully, at that time, there was childcare available and it wasn't as expensive to live. So it was manageable for me. It's very different now. And so it was hard for me. It was hard for me. But I did get on board by the time they had their baby shower. We celebrated right along with them. And like I said, he's 5 now and doing very well, and Travis is a very good dad. So, yeah, everything ended out okay, but initially I was very,
Feelings. I think
yeah,
that like though that's normal, right? Like
yeah,
you're always a mom. These emotions you're feeling are normal. It's how you respond. It's how you react to them. Like at some point, your kids are going to make decisions because they're adults. They're going to make decisions, and you get to decide if you want to support them, if you want to love them through it, no matter what, or if you want to, I think that there's always a piece of, I'm the mom. There's just a piece of like, you respect me because I'm your mom. Like even as an adult, like it's hard to navigate those boundaries. It's hard
Mhm.
to I don't have adult children. I am an adult child, and I know that there's definitely things that I don't want to upset my parents, but I also want to do what's best for me and what's best for my family. And
Mhm.
that has caused some emotions in the past. And so there's definitely, seeing it from the other side as being the adult child, there is this pressure as in, they are still your parents. You do still have to respect them. I don't want them upset with me. I want a good relationship. But at some point, like you get to make adult decisions. You get to decide what's best for you and your family, and that's okay. Like, what do those boundaries look like? What has I'm assuming in their adult lives, you've had some kind of maybe disagreement or some kind of a situation where you guys didn't see eye to eye. What does handling situations like that look like when you're no longer like, hey, I'm the disciplinary and if I don't like what you do or if you didn't, did something disrespectful or whatever, I pass down a punishment. I pass down whatever. As adult children, you don't really get to do that. Like, what does
Mhm.
that look like if you are upset with them or if you guys kind of have a disagreement? As a mom, how do you handle that?
I think it depends on the child too. So like each one of our three adult children would be very different depending on the situation and like if it's with me, if it's with my husband, those types of things. I do think like understanding your limitations really and understanding like you may not agree with them, but you have to respect them. So the
Hmm.
whole agree to disagree thing and really just allowing them to, take ownership in their decisions and whatever the consequences, positive or negative, as a result, and letting them, not always saving them, not trying to protect them from all things, but letting them learn along the way, I think is super important. So, and this has never happened to my kids, but I'm just thinking like of an adult child who maybe spent money on stuff they shouldn't have spent, so now they can't afford their rent. And so now mom and dad have this argument with the child because the child comes to them and asks for money for rent because they can't cover it. And what do you do as a parent? Do you cover the rent for them? Do you not cover the rent for them? I would be quick to want to cover the rent for them because I don't want them to not be able to have a place to live. And
Right.
natural consequences they have to learn. And if they learn that we're going to save them every single time, then they're not really learning the consequences of their actions. So I don't know what I would do if I was faced with that situation. I think I would be quick to want to protect and like fix the situation. But is that
Right.
really doing?
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be like a negative thing. Like as you're talking, like it's a good thing. Like, and our attitude can reflect it being a good thing. Like, I know that you're not going to love this answer. Like, I know that you're going to disagree with me, but like letting them experience life and not trying to navigate it for them, letting them go through and have these natural consequences. Like,
Mhm.
even
Yeah,
something.
and I'm a big
Yeah.
like Dave Ramsey fan, and so I've given my kids like a Ramsey journal for Christmas. One year they all got one for budgeting or whatever. So like giving them the tools to be able to figure it out, and then what they decide to do with the tools is up to them,
Right.
but not being the person to fix everything. So I
Or
think,
force them,
yeah,
right? You
yeah,
can't force it, but
right.
yeah. So it's really just I mean, ultimately, you're always going to be their mom. You're
Mhm.
always going to love them. You're always going to want what's best for them, even if they can't see it. Because if we think about our own journeys, like how many times did we, make the wrong turn or make a bad decision or
Mhm.
something that ultimately, but looking back now, like that is a huge piece of my story. It's a huge piece of who I am and now who I've become because of this road I've taken. And so, the hard part is really trying to manage our own emotions. That's like the hardest part of the whole thing.
Yes, and quite frankly, you don't know what you're doing. Like you've been a parent for 18 years, but you've never been a parent of adult children until you're a parent of
No.
adult child. Like so it's a whole new ball game. It's a whole new experience and it's like all
Yeah.
of a sudden you don't really have the same level of control as you once did. And
Yeah.
so I always used to tell my people might frown at this, but I always used to tell my kids, until you're 18, you don't own a dang thing. I own everything. All your clothes, your phone, everything. So give me a reason to take it and I will take it.
Mhm.
Well, it's the day they turn 18, that's no longer valid. That's no longer true. Do I wish I maybe tried something differently with them? Sure. Do I do that with Emily now? I mean, not as much, but I still remind her that I could take her stuff at any time because,
Right.
I just think it's important to teach them the skills before they're 18. So when they do go off into the wild, wild west of being an adult, they have some skills that they can use.
Yeah. Do you find that you have a completely different perspective on them as they make these decisions? Maybe if it's not the decisions you would make, but you can kind of look at it through a different perspective. I mean, even in the work you do, like you are in the human service like field, so
Hmm.
you have an understanding of mental health and all of that stuff. For maybe somebody who doesn't, who struggles with maybe decisions and choices that their adult children make, is there a different perspective or a different thing that they can think of or try for themselves when they're struggling in these situations?
I truly believe that everybody's doing the best they can with what they have at the moment. And that's true for us, it's true for our adult children. And if we remind ourselves of that, like my adult child is doing the best they can with the information they have right now. And so, what can we teach them, or what are they willing to learn? That's another thing, right? We could teach them until we're blue in the face, but if they're not willing to learn it, if they're not willing to hear it, then there's nothing we can do about it. And
Right.
us fixing the problem for them does not fix the problem for them. It's a temporary fix. We're not giving them the skills for them to be able to do it on their own. So, as hard as it is to see our kids struggle, it's so important to remember they have to go through that struggle to be able to learn what's working, what's not working. Because if
Right.
what's not working and mom always fixes it, well, then mom will always fix it. So, and there's that codependency piece, and, we could have a whole other episode on that. So, I think to answer your question, I think just remembering like they're doing the best they can, we're doing the best we can, and really trying to figure out like what do they need
Right.
to be able to fix it themselves, not for me to fix it for them.
Or and sometimes like it's not a situation that even really needs fixing. There could be stuff that they just need to go through something to learn themselves, learn about parenting their own children, learning about their relationship with a partner or something, a coworker, like life in general. Like sometimes as parents, we want to fix everything, but there's not some stuff that doesn't need to be fixed. They just need to experience this life. What growth can come from going through this kind of situation. While you were chatting, talking about they're doing the best they can. And what came to my mind was like, do they need my support or do they need my parenting? Like, as parents, like as moms, we try to just go in, like, we know we've been through this, we know what to do, just listen to us. But they don't need us to be a parent at that point. They need us to be a support. Like, hey, I've been there. What is a different shift on can we go into it less of a parent and more of like a support system?
Just ask them, right?
Right? What do
Like,
you need?
what if we just ask them? And I think and I agree, not everything needs fixing, but as a mom, I think things need to be fixed, even when they don't need
Right,
to be fixed. So I go in
right,
there with the mindset that something needs to fix, something needs to be different for you, and this is how you do it.
right.
But yeah,
Or
let's
I know
just ask them.
better, right? Like you're
Right.
doing this different, but if you do it my way, it's better and you'll have a better
Exactly.
result. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think asking them, do you need my support? Do you need a ear? Do you need to just vent? Like, what do you need? Instead of us going in with that mentality, like, we need to save the day, we need to protect them. Because that is mama bear for many of us. We go in with that mindset, like, we're gonna just solve whatever is happening.
Which can sometimes cause more of a can cause a disconnection.
Mhm.
Like it can be not well received
Mhm.
and be like, no, like this is not, I'm an adult. I can handle myself. This is not what I need. Like I need you to respect me. I need you to respect my boundaries. I want to. So your intentions could be good. Your intentions can be, in the right place, but the execution is not, and it's not well received. There has to be some kind of right. Like I love how you just said, ask what they need versus just assuming that they need what you have to give them.
Right. Because I'm right. I am
And I'm
for
the
this.
mom,
I
and
know
I'm
what
always
I'm
going to be
talking about.
right.
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm guilty of that too. Ask any of my children, they'll tell you. And so I need to take this advice. And it's easier said than done, but again, we talk about this all the time, Jess, and you say it all the time. Intentionality, being intentional, and really saying, like, okay, I'm gonna really try hard. We can't change everything all at once, but we can make one small shift. So maybe
Yeah.
just asking, shifting to asking, what do you need? How can I help? Do you
Right.
need my help?
Yeah. How do you want me to show up right now?
Yeah.
Right? Like, how
Yeah.
can I support you where you are? And, I just think that that goes a long way in terms of just knowing that you're there, like just knowing that you're a support, even if you can't, change something, fix something, whatever, just knowing that you're not going to try and change the way that they need to feel through this situation. Because that's almost like invalidating what they're going through. I,
Right.
as a mom, am going through something, and to, be told that I need to do things differently or whatever, that instantly can create a defense of like, whoa, like let me feel my feelings and work through it. Let me go through certain things, and it kind of discredits them from being able to grow through the situations. And that's what we want for our kids. I want you to grow. I want you to become a better version of yourself. And that normally comes through adversity, through struggles, through all of that stuff. And so, yeah, those questions you're asking are incredible questions. Like, how can I show up? How can I support you? What do you want from me? Like, that really is like, I need to remind myself of this in so many years of like just asking them what they need from me.
And I feel like it could even the same could apply to my 14-year-old. How can I
Well,
help?
100%. I have Deegan in my mind, right? Like
Mhm.
and the thing with D is he is very much different than me. Like I am very like, okay, when I want something done, like I want to get it done. Deegan is on his own pace and it is nothing but a slow go. So it's like, but just because it's not at my speed doesn't mean it's wrong. And
Correct.
so really ask like how can I support you in how you want to get this done? Because it's not bad. He's not doing anything wrong. It's just not in, the capacity that maybe I would accomplish a task or do something.
Right. Exactly.
So, yeah, yeah, this is definitely something that we can incorporate from a young age because then maybe we will be more conditioned when they're older that this is already a part of our relationship. It's not something that we're learning, it's something that we've already established with them. Because you're right, like 14 is already like you're in that kind of transition where they're like, they're still under your roof, you're still giving them tools and ingraining things in them, but ultimately you're rounding that corner to like they're going to be able to make their own decisions here very soon. And what do you want your relationship with her to look like? Like that's what I keep asking myself. What kind of relationship do I want them to want to be my friend? I want them to want to come home and talk to me. I want them to want to come tell me when they have something going on because they know that they can trust me and I'm not going to try and talk them out of something. I'm not going to try and, change their perspective. I'm not going to try. I'm going to give them my honest opinion, but I'm going to support them in whatever that is that they want to do.
Yeah, it's so important. And I think you're right, Jess. Like starting now, starting when they're still home, it'll make for an easier transition into adulthood. Because again, like I said, it's like starting ground zero. It's like a whole other ball game. And really, especially for the first timers, it's definitely difficult. As once they get their license, I swear, once they get their driver's license, it's like full steam ahead because they
Yeah.
get their license typically sophomore year, junior and senior year, you're starting to think about colleges and college tours and applications and SATs and
Yeah.
all the things. And I think we'll be talking about competitive sports there. So if you're a high school student playing sports and adding that into the mix of all the things in there and relationships and friendship issues, and it's just a whirlwind of 4 years once they hit the high school. But once they get that driver's license, it's really, whew.
Yeah. Hey, one more question I had for you as you bring up college. You talked about Maddie going away and you felt like that was like a little bit different of experience for her and maybe has shaped her. Would you like what are your thoughts on that? Like, will you encourage Emily to go away or would you care if she stays close? Do you feel like
I'm
it's
okay. I'm okay either way.
regardless?
Yeah, I'm okay either way. I think, depending finances. I hate to say it, but
Yeah.
finances at the end of the day, I am a believer. I'm a lifelong learner and I think college is important. And at the end of the day, it's a piece of paper that you get. So do you get it at an out-of-state college that you're going to pay out-of-state tuition, or do you get it in-state where you're going to get in-state
Right.
tuition, depending on scholarships and all the things. So I would say whatever makes sense for Emily and what she wants to do. But if she just wants to go, let's say to, I don't know, some fancy school on the ocean because she likes it and it's astronomically priced, I would probably heavily advise her against that, because she'll be up to her eyeballs in debt. So I think in the full scheme of things, it really depends on cost
Yeah.
is to me is a huge driving factor. And I think, the experience, your experience is what you make of it. You could go to a small town college in your own community, in a different community. You can go to a big college. You
Right.
could do private school. You can do all the things. It's what you make of it. And so I think we put too much thought into like the college experience and all the things. It's really what we make of it. And so at the end of the day, we're all getting if it's a 4-year degree, you're getting a bachelor's degree in whatever, study you're focused on. Let's do it. Let's do it in a way that makes the most sense.
It's something I go back and forth with. I mean, Deegan, I'm gonna try and push into a trade. He's
Hmm.
definitely not like a student. He loves to work with his hands. He's talked about welding or, being an electrician or, something like that. So I'll fully support that. I'd love for him to dive in. He has a personality. He would be a great salesman. Like he will do just fine out
Hmm.
in the world. And so trying to encourage him in like an entrepreneurial journey, trying to work with him. But Bradley's smart as a whip, so it's like, what will that look like for her? Does she need to go away? Could she go? I'm a huge supporter of like going to community college for a couple of years because a lot of times we're asking 17-year-olds to make lifelong decisions and they have no idea. I changed my major 3 times. So and now I have student loans for that piece of paper that I don't really do anything with. I've learned more from real life in the world that I work in than from a piece of paper. And so it's like, what does that look like for her? Could a community college, can you still get that
Hmm.
experience? Because they're still like they're still young right out of high school. That's definitely something I was just interested on your perspective. But yeah, I do and I think that's important to teach kids that cost matters. Like that needs to be a conversation. This is how much it is. This is, what you're getting out of it because that's going to affect them. Like you said, I can't pay for all my kids to go to college. Like and I also want them to understand that like your choice has a financial impact for
Hmm.
years to come, like years to come, based off of the fun college experience. Like I don't even want my kids to have the fun college experience. Like I want you to go, I want you to work, I want you to get what you want to do, and then head out there and start making a life for yourself. So, okay, yeah, that's a great finance was not I did not think that was going to be what you're going to tell me, but that is a great point. Great.
Well, I just being in student loan debt myself and
Yes.
having worked in higher ed and looking at that and working in a high school counselor, like really understanding the cost of tuition and room and board and in-state and out-of-state tuition and all the things in the FAFSA and needing to include your parents' income when you're not, in your early 20s. So all of those things matter. And while people want experience, and I say that that's important, but I would say almost more important is can you afford it? Can you afford
Absolutely.
it?
Because how many kids are walking around right now with crippling student loan debt and like a half of a job? Like
That's the
nothing.
thing.
It's hard to find something, kids who decide they want to go to school for like, all of these crazy, not your average jobs, and then you
Right.
rack up all this debt and then, can't get a job. That is a whole nother topic that we should, I'm jotting these down. Codependency
Yeah.
and the job world for kids.
Yeah.
I was laughing. I was watching this Instagram reel the other day that was like, picking a job when, my dad was a adult and it was like farmer, electrician, admin, school teacher, like all of these like generic things. And then she was like, job titles today. And it was absolutely hysterical. Just, like talking about,
YouTuber,
yes, yes, with all of these like wild titles.
influencer.
Right. Yeah. We have, and like that's a serious thing. Like kids are like, no, I'm gonna be a YouTuber. And they're like, okay. I mean, there's YouTubers that make way more money than I do, and
Mhm.
there's like that's a thing. Yeah, it is
For
wild.
like the 1% of the population. Like it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. All right. I love that you said So many things. I love those questions. I jotted them down. I'm going to share them because I think that that is a great, those are great references and things like you said, we can even start now with kids, with young, just that connection. That's my favorite word is that connection piece with our kids. And so if we can start incorporating that now, I think that is a really cool thing.
Yeah, and we didn't even touch this, but it made me think of when you said the word connection is your spouse, whoever
Yeah.
you have at home, your relationship shifts once you're an empty nester. So, like, really figuring what do you want that to look like, and are you fostering the relationship now while the kids are home so there's something there when they leave? Does your whole world revolve around the kids? So I know we've talked about that in a past episode. Just things to ponder, maybe think about, because that shifts too. And then before you know it, you have all this time on your hands, and you may or may not have a really solid connection with your other half. So just something to think about as well.
I just jotted that title down because we should do that. We
Mhm.
could have a whole chat with that. We could actually probably even get a guest on,
Mhm.
somebody who's left, who has experienced that.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Cool.
would be great. Awesome. Well, thanks for hanging out with us on Mom Fuel and Mindset. If today's conversation spoke to you, take it as your reminder that happy moms don't come from doing more. They come from choosing themselves and owning their growth.
And if you love this episode, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with another mom who needs a little fuel and a mindset shift today.
Until next time, keep showing up for yourself, keep growing forward, and remember, happy moms own their growth.
See you soon.